GMNA uses artificial intelligence for generated speech, visuals, and production. AI-generated content may contain errors. Please verify important information before making decisions or taking action. Live from the GMNA News Center, this is the Lunch Break News Hour.
Good afternoon, Montreal. I'm CJ Waterhouse. The city of Westmount has finally refilled its pond after residents pushed for action, and a bus collision on the South Shore left a pedestrian critically injured. Traffic's heavy across the island, so plan ahead. Jeff, what do you make of that?
The Festival des Arts de Rue returns to Old Montreal this weekend, featuring live street performances, local musicians, and interactive art installations throughout the cobblestone streets.
Family-friendly activities include a pop-up puppet theater, community mural painting, and a free cooking demonstration by the city's renowned culinary school.
Tickets are complimentary, though visitors are encouraged to register online for timed entry slots due to expected high attendance on Saturday and Sunday.
All right, let's get into it, starting with the Westmount Pond restoration that residents helped complete after community cleanup efforts earlier this week. Let's dive into the headlines shaping our week, from the latest in health breakthroughs to the city's new transit plan and what's happening abroad.
Good afternoon. The pond in Westmount Central Park has been refilled after a brief shutdown sparked community action. Earlier this morning, the city of Westmount halted water flow to the pond as part of the broader water conservation directives issued by the city of Montreal. Residents noticed the water level dropping and quickly notified municipal officials. Within hours, city crews restored the supply and topped off the basin, returning the park's signature feature to its usual depth. Officials said the temporary cut was intended to reduce consumption during a citywide conservation period, but the swift response shows how local feedback can influence service decisions. The restored pond is now again available for visitors and wildlife, and the city plans to monitor water use closely throughout the summer. Westmount, an affluent enclave bordering the island's western edge, benefits from its own municipal services while cooperating on regional initiatives.
Yesterday evening, a city bus struck a pedestrian on the South Shore, leaving the individual in critical condition. Emergency crews responded quickly, transporting the victim to a hospital where doctors say the injuries are life-threatening. Police have closed the roadway while they investigate the collision and are reviewing bus driver logs and surveillance footage. Witnesses reported that the bus was traveling north on the main thoroughfare when it veered onto the crosswalk, hitting the pedestrian who was walking home. The transit authority confirmed that the bus was operating on a regular route and that no other passengers were injured. Authorities have not released the victim's identity and the investigation remains ongoing. The incident occurred near the main bus corridor that links South Shore communities to downtown, prompting a temporary reroute of several lines. Officials said they will release a full report once the investigation is complete.
Resilience Montreal is set to launch a new day center for people experiencing homelessness today, aiming to smooth tensions with nearby residents. The organization says the facility will provide meals, showers, and case management services during daylight hours, while keeping the neighborhood quiet after dark. Officials have consulted with local community groups and pledged clear operating guidelines to address common concerns about noise, safety, and traffic. By placing the center in a location already zoned for social services, Resilience hopes to demonstrate that supportive housing can coexist with residential life. City planners note that early outreach and transparent communication often reduce the opposition that typically greets new homeless programs. If the center opens as planned, it will join a growing network of daytime shelters designed to keep people off the streets without disrupting the surrounding area.
Authorities say a kangaroo that roamed the Boucherville stretch of Highway 20 this morning has been safely captured. The marsupial was first spotted early today when drivers reported a hopping silhouette near the South Shore commuter corridor. Police and wildlife officials responded, cordoning off the area and deploying a tranquilizer team. By mid-morning, the animal was secured without injury and placed into a transport crate for return to a rehabilitation center. Officials reminded motorists to stay alert for unexpected wildlife on the highway, especially during the summer travel rush. No traffic disruptions were reported after the capture, and the kangaroo is now on its way to receive proper care. Residents nearby expressed amazement at the unlikely sight, saying it was a reminder of the province's diverse wildlife.
Police in Quebec City began issuing thousands of fines today after a provincial bylaw that bans disrespectful language toward police and other public officials was enforced. The bylaw, which applies across Quebec municipalities, makes it an offense to use language deemed insulting toward officers. Officers in Quebec City and surrounding towns have been checking for violations and issuing citations, to anyone whose remarks cross the legal line. Surge in penalties reflects a coordinated effort to curb verbal abuse of law enforcement personnel. Officials say the rule is intended to protect the dignity of public servants and maintain order in public discourse. Many of the citations were handed out during street protests and after online comments were flagged by police monitoring tools. No arrests were reported, but the volume of fines signals that the province is taking the ban seriously and will continue to monitor compliance.
Later we'll explore why almost 25,000 vacant units are haunting Montreal's housing market, plus on today's top stories. We will be right back.
Watch the local sunset tonight at 6 p.m. for all your local Montreal news.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got the latest updates, then Jeff Laflamme will take us through today's local stories you need to know.
Nearly 25,000 residential units sit empty across the city, a figure released on June 17th that underscores the depth of the housing shortage. City officials say the vacancy count comes from recent surveys of rental and ownership properties, confirming a substantial pool of dwellings remains unoccupied while many families struggle to find affordable space. Analysts point to market dynamics, including high prices and limited new construction, as drivers of the gap. The data arrives as municipal leaders explore policy tools aimed at encouraging owners to bring empty units back into the market. Housing advocates note that each vacant unit could house multiple households, easing pressure on waiting lists for subsidized programs. The city's report calls for closer monitoring of vacancy trends as part of its broader strategy to stabilize rents.
Quebec has just enacted a rule that bars anyone holding a motorcycle permit from riding high-performance machines for a 2-year period. The regulation, announced on June 17th, targets riders who have only recently earned their permit, forcing them to wait before they can test the power of sport-type bikes. Karen Ferrazano of the Association of Quebec Driving Schools said the measure aims to curb accidents involving inexperienced riders on fast motorcycles. Under the new law, a permit holder must keep a standard bike for the full 2 years before applying for a license that includes high-risk models. Officials say the waiting period will give new motorcyclists more time to develop basic skills and understand traffic conditions before handling faster machines. The change takes effect immediately, and riding schools across the province will adjust their curricula to comply.
Consumer advocates are pressing the provincial government to tighten regulations governing the guarantee of parts and repair availability, saying the current framework creates a perverse effect that restricts access to replacement components. On June 17th, groups representing motorists, appliance owners, and other buyers presented a petition outlining specific changes they want, including clear obligations for manufacturers to supply spare parts for a defined period after sale. They argue that the existing law, while intended to protect consumers, has unintentionally limited the market for independent repair services and forced shoppers to rely on costly original equipment channels. The petition calls for mandatory disclosure of part supply timelines and penalties for non-compliance. Officials have acknowledged receipt of the document and indicated they will review the proposals before any legislative amendment. The move comes as consumers seek more reliable options for maintaining everyday devices and vehicles.
The province's CDPQ infra has moved into the planning stage for 2 new REM stations, one in Griffintown and another in the Bridge-Bonaventure district. The launch of the planning phase took place on June 16th, with construction slated to wrap up by 2030. Adding these stops expands the rapid transit network that already threads through the island, promising shorter rides for commuters heading to downtown jobs, schools, and local shops. Residents in the 2 neighborhoods can expect a boost in foot traffic and easier access to the wider system, which could ease street-level congestion during rush hour. CDPQ Infra says the new stations will integrate with existing bus routes and bike share hubs, further linking daily travel options for those living and working in the area. The development aligns with the broader goal of modernizing public transport across the region.
2 low-income apartment blocks in East Montreal have been left vacant and are now in severe disrepair, officials said on June 16. The buildings, originally intended to provide affordable housing, were abandoned after the owners ceased maintenance, leaving walls cracked, roofs leaking, and utilities disconnected. Neighbors report broken windows, exposed wiring, and a growing accumulation of trash that poses safety hazards for pedestrians. Local housing advocates warn the decay undermines efforts to address the city's shortage of affordable units and could encourage crime or squatters. Municipal inspectors have been dispatched to assess structural integrity and determine whether demolition or emergency repairs are required. City officials say the deteriorated sites highlight gaps in oversight of private landlords tasked with delivering low-cost units, and they are reviewing enforcement mechanisms. The situation has sparked concern among tenants in nearby complexes, who fear similar neglect could spread to other vulnerable properties.
Now let's turn to the weather team for a quick look at this afternoon's forecast.
A gentle mid-day glance at Montreal's weather, perfect for planning lunch outings and afternoon errands. On this day, the city recorded its hottest temperature at 30.3 degrees, set in 2024 during a brief but intense heat wave that pushed the province into record-breaking territory. The coldest reading was 9.5 degrees, logged in 2013 when an Arctic air mass slipped south, surprising residents with a frosty snap. By contrast, today's climate normals hover around a high of 24 degrees and a low of 15, reminding us how today's milder conditions sit comfortably between those extremes. Right now, the city sits at 19 degrees with mostly cloudy skies, humidity around 64%, and a gentle breeze from the east at 7 kilometers per hour. By noon, the temperature will climb to 23 degrees and the clouds will clear, giving a bright backdrop for lunch plans. As the afternoon progresses, expect the sky to darken and heavy rain to arrive around 3 p.m., bringing the temperature down to 17 degrees and a brief chill. The rain will taper off by early evening, leaving an overcast sky and a steady 19 degrees as the sun sets around 8:45. The UV index remains moderate at 6, and winds will stay below 25 kilometers per hour, so no special precautions are needed. With no alerts in force, we'll now turn to the 5-day outlook. Looking ahead, Thursday brings a high of 23 degrees and a low of 15, with overcast skies and a 75% chance of rain, so keep an umbrella handy for the morning commute. Friday cools to a high of 20 and a low of 15, and light rain will linger with a 50% probability of showers. Saturday stays in the low teens, high 19 and low 14, overcast with a 55% rain chance, ideal for indoor plans. Sunday offers a brief break, high 21, low 14, overcast but only 20% rain chance, allowing a sunny stroll later. Monday returns to a high of 20 and a low of 15, overcast with a 45% rain chance, rounding out a week of mixed moisture and moderate temperatures.
We've got traffic updates, a look at today's lineup, and the Canadians with Suzuki's Selk win and Caulfield's Lady buying. We will be right back.
Watch the local sunset tonight at 6 p.m. for all your local Montreal news.
Heavy congestion still clogs the city this morning. The biggest choke point is the Des corridor. Roadwork continues on autoroute Des between Montreal and Montreal, and the same work extends through the Des interchange in Montreal. Expect 3 lanes reduced to 1 and speed drops to about 20 km per hour during peak. Backup stretches for several kilometers, spilling onto Rue Shaibrook and Boulevard St. Laurent. A second major bottleneck sits on autoroute Métropolitaine, where extensive resurfacing forces traffic onto the left lane only. That creates a slow-moving queue that reaches the Des Métropolitaine junction. Drivers report delays of up to 15 minutes even before rush hour. On transit, the SDM strike limits service to peak hour runs only. So many regular routes run on a reduced schedule. If you rely on the Green Line, expect longer wait times between trains. Overall, roads outside the 2 corridors are moving freely. Expect the afternoon to clear once the morning rush eases.
There are no verified listings available for this segment. And now here's Jason with sports.
2 Canadians earned top NHL honors, underscoring Montreal's two-way excellence. Montreal Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki captured the Frank J. Selk Trophy for defensive excellence, while winger Cole Caulfield earned the Lady Byng for sportsmanship, the league announced Friday, according to CBC Sports NHL. The awards highlight the Habs' two-way play and character. Logan Stankoven propelled the Carolina Hurricanes past the Montreal Canadiens in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final, netting one of 3 first-period goals as the Hurricanes secured a series win and moved on to the Stanley Cup Final, CBC Sports NHL reported Tuesday. In Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final, the Carolina Hurricanes advanced to the Stanley Cup Final by defeating the Montreal Canadiens, with Logan Stankoven scoring one of 3 first-period goals, CBC Sports NHL reports. The win ends Montreal's playoff run.
Arthur's Nosh Bar in St. Henry, a beloved spot where locals gather for casual plates and a pint, is at the heart of a citywide show of solidarity. After the language watchdog's recent crackdown on the English word nosh, neighboring businesses from Vintage Frames on Rue Notre Dame to Mandy's Salads on St. Laurent and Grill Nature on Etiwater sprouted the word on their windows in support. The simple gesture turns storefronts into a chorus of nosh, reminding us that Montreal's culinary scene thrives on community rather than controversy. It's a reminder that a neighborhood eatery can become a rallying point for cultural conversation. For Montreal, Arthur's isn't just a bar, it's a living piece of the city's inclusive spirit. And later a hopping surprise as the escaped kangaroo finally gets caught on Montreal's South Shore. Stay tuned for that feel-good story.
Coming up tonight at 6, the local sunset. Your neighborhood, your city, your news. From city hall decisions to the stories happening right on your street, we cover what matters most to Montrealers. Join us tonight at 6 p.m. on GMna for the local sunset, Montreal's evening newscast.
The city's ombudsman says the homeless crisis in the Milton Park neighborhood has stagnated for 3 years, with shelters overflowing and residents fearing a surge in street encampments. Officials warn conditions could worsen if new resources aren't deployed soon. Carl Dumont is there. Carl Dumont.
Thanks, CJ Waterhouse. I'm standing on the cracked pavement of Milton Park, where a thin mist rolls off the St. Lawrence River and clings to the rows of weather-worn tents that line the alley behind the grocery store. The air smells of hot coffee and diesel, and the distant hum of the metro blends with the soft chatter of men and women huddled around makeshift fire pits. A young mother wraps a blanket tighter around her toddler, while a volunteer hands out warm soup from a battered metal kettle. The city's ombudsman's latest report notes the humanitarian crisis here has deepened since 2021, and despite a handful of outreach programs, the number of people sleeping on the streets has risen. The faces I see, lined, weary, yet still hopeful, show why this issue matters beyond statistics. It's a reminder that every empty lot, every unfilled shelter bed is a story waiting for a chance to change. Carl Dumont, virtually at Milton Park.
On a bright Saturday morning in the Plateau Montreal, the scent of fresh coffee drifted from a pop-up bakery as a group of teenagers set up a colorful mural on the side of the local police station. The project, organized by the Community Center Le Movement, invited residents of all ages to paint words of gratitude and hope on a temporary canvas that stretched from the station's front steps to the nearby park bench. Among the volunteers was 12-year-old Maya, who carefully brushed a bright orange sun onto the wall while her grandfather, a retired officer, shared stories of neighborhood watches that once helped keep the block safe. As the mural took shape, onlookers paused, phones rose, and a spontaneous chorus of applause rose when the final stroke revealed the phrase, "Together we belong." The scene turned a routine police-citizen interaction into a celebration of shared humanity, reminding everyone that a simple act of creativity can bridge divides. It's moments like these that remind us why community matters and why we're all in this together.
In the heart of Old Montreal, on the stone steps of the Palais de Justice, the Quebec Bar gathered this morning with a handful of judges, university scholars, and a few neighborhood activists. The purpose? To lay the groundwork for a rule of law summit slated for September, a meeting the bar hopes will reverse a tide of waning confidence in our provincial institutions. A recent poll conducted by a local research center showed that roughly 1 in 3 Quebecers now doubt the fairness of the courts, and that sentiment has been creeping upward for the past several years. In response, the bar's president, Ms. Sophie Tremblay, outlined a schedule that will feature open forum panels, a youth law clinic showcase, and a public art installation that will transform a vacant lot on St. Laurent into a justice garden. The most striking moment came when a 10-year-old from the Plateau, clutching a handmade sign that read "Fairness for All," stepped forward to ask the panel how ordinary citizens can help rebuild trust. The quiet nods and earnest answers that followed reminded us that the summit is not just a policy event, but a community conversation. It's a reminder that when we gather with purpose, the foundations of our society can grow stronger.
Thank you, Montreal, for joining us on the lunch break. From the surprising capture of an escaped kangaroo on the South Shore to the stories that matter to our city, we appreciate your watch. We'll be back tomorrow with more local news and insight. See you then.